New York City FC recently had a 5-game winning streak snapped in spectacular fashion, suffering defeat for the first time in over a month to the Columbus Crew and then also losing to the LA Galaxy and Nashville SC. They have, however, rebounded with a victory at home against Orlando. They finished both of the 2 games they lost there that I mentioned to the Galaxy and Nashville. They finished those games both scoreless. In the Columbus game, New York went down a man early, but they did still nearly clinch a point. And while they didn't have their best performance against the Galaxy, they did still threaten the goal quite a bit. And on another day, the scoreline could have gone their way. And of course, they beat Orlando fairly comfortably despite a late push from Orlando. This may be a little bit too optimistic, but in my eyes, they are a team that has a lot of momentum right now and is performing very well. This recent spell of good form has made it sort of easy to forget that not long ago the team was in a serious freefall that looked catastrophic. They had a really poor start to the season, only taking 5 points from their opening 5 games. This put a lot of pressure on head coach Nick Cushing, with many New York City FC fans calling for him to be sacked. He has been probably the most under pressure manager in the league this year, but is the pressure, the memes, the hate warranted? Is Nick Cushing a good coach? Welcome back to Pancake FC, the YouTube channel named after the fantasy team named after my dog. If you do enjoy the video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. For every person who does so, Pancake does get an extra treat. And stay tuned for the end of the video where Pancake will get some of the treats that y'all gave her over the last couple of weeks. So let's talk about Nick Cushing, the man, the myth, the legend. Who is he? Where is he? Why is he? I've lost my train of thought. Let's start at the beginning of his professional career. Nick Cushing started his coaching career with the Manchester City Women's Academy and worked his way up all the way to the role of senior team head coach, where he stayed in charge for 7 years. During that time, he won a handful of domestic cup trophies, 1 league title, and 1 Manager of the Year award. He also boasted an impressive 72% win percentage across his time there. He left his post in 2020 to join New York City FC as Ronnie Dela's assistant coach, and when Dela left the club 2 years later to manage in Belgium, Cushing was promoted to interim coach and then 6 months later announced as permanent head coach, and well, the rest is history. So now you know Nick Cushing's history, his credentials, but you don't know the real Nick Cushing. Who is Nick Cushing as a person? Well, I'm going to answer that question with a few anecdotes that will hopefully paint the picture for me. When Nick Cushing won his 2nd domestic cup with Manchester City, his wife went into labor during extra time of that game, but he decided to stay and finish coaching the game instead of joining her. Nick Cushing helped his team game plan against big target man Christian Benteke by calling up the tallest academy player they had to act in as a stand-in during practice. In a game this year against Toronto FC, Nick Cushing was accused by John Herdman and Jonathan Osorio of cornering and punching a teenage player. Fun fact, Nick Cushing has also done a masterclass. He strikes me as an intelligent guy, a crafty guy who can also be pretty intense, at times definitely to a fault. So now we know Cushing's history, a little bit about his character, but who is he tactically? What is Cushing's tactical approach to the game? Okay, so Nick Cushing's setup for his team basically is a 4-2-3-1, and I'll tell you, analyzing New York City FC's tactics, Nick Cushing's tactics, is super easy. Anybody could do it. They play this 4-2-3-1, and it is fairly positional. These guys in each spot pretty much, for the most part, stick to these spots. There's not a ton going on with it. It's very simple. Definitely to a fault, but in a sense I kind of respect it because it is kind of disciplined. Like, they're never necessarily like way out of position. Parks and Sand pretty much hold these midfield holding roles the whole game. O'Toole and Gray, will move up the wing vertically pretty much just the whole game. Center backs hold their spots. Wolf and Ojeda, who's usually playing out here, will, play on these wings, provide danger. Santi is kind of the one exception to this, and his role is a little bit more relational in that it's based on, his relationships to everybody else. He has license to roam quite a bit, which he takes full advantage of. A lot of times he'll come deep onto this left side to pick up the ball and then bring it forward. He has license to roam, but pretty much everyone else just kind of sticks to their spots. It's fairly disciplined. It's super simple, but it's kind of effective. I mean, there's a reason that the 4-2-3-1 is such a popular formation, and it works. It does. These are good spots for these guys to be in. And honestly, there's not a ton else to say about it. It is simple yet effective. One thing that I do think Nick Cushing has definitely struggled with a bit during his time at New York City FC is locker room management. We saw in the first game of the season, Santi Rodriguez get pretty frustrated with Cushing when he was subbed off, and they had a heated exchange on the sideline. Cushing has had a falling out with Magno, the Brazilian star. Star is a little bit much. The talented young Brazilian forward, they seem to have had kind of a falling out that's kept him out of the team following his injury. Another thing to remember about this New York City FC team and about Nick Cushing is he still is kind of a young coach, and this is a very young team. They have the youngest average age in the league. This is the youngest team in the league. So considering how inexperienced they are and how disciplined they're able to set up, I do think that a lot of this stuff, even though, like I've said a bunch of times, is simple, I kind of think it's impressive. And I mean, Nick Cushing, more like Nick crushing it, maybe. But that's basically the tactical breakdown idea of this team. It's a 4-2-3-1, and it is a 4-2-3-1. So, is Nick Cushing a good coach? Well, despite the simplistic tactics, despite the recent controversy surrounding him, despite the locker room issues, I kind of think he is. But mostly I think he is just fine, which in itself is kind of fine. He's doing, in my opinion, a decent job right now. More than anything else, I do find him to be a victim of expectations. New York City FC won a title recently, and does Cushing live up to those standards and that level of play? No, not necessarily, but is what he's doing bad? Also, no. I'm not gonna lie, while I don't love what he's doing with his team, I do kind of like it. So really, in conclusion, there's no reason to be upset. This was Pancake FC, the YouTube channel named after the fantasy team named after my dog. If you did enjoy the video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. For every person who does so, Pancake does get an extra treat. And speaking of... Can you sit down? Can you sit down? Sit down, Pancake. Sit down. Good job. Very good. Can you shake? Say it's nice to meet you. Wow, good to meet you. Firm handshake. Very good. Let me treat. Here you go. Good job. Very good. All right. See you later.